Hello, friends. We're going to do philosophy story time, the beginning of philosophy. And this is the story of Socrates. See, before Socrates, there were some people who had been philosophers, who had thought about different things, but philosophy really got off the ground with Socrates. So here's the basic story. One day, Socrates goes to see his friend Chaerephon, and Chaerephon tells Socrates, I got to go and see the Delphic oracle and ask the Delphic oracle a question. And Socrates said, that's fantastic. What question did you ask? You see, the Delphic oracle is a mouthpiece or kind of a prophetess of the god Apollo. And people took their answer seriously. Sometimes the Athenians would even go and they would ask whether or not they were going to win a particular battle. Should they fight that battle or are they going to win? This is the context of the Peloponnesian War, right? They were at war with Sparta and all the allies, etc. So, but the answers that the oracle would give were often mysterious. So the oracle would say something like, victory is certain. But then that's the question, well, who's going to be victorious? Is it going to be us? Is it going to be them? So there's often interpretation that was needed, but it was regarded as a mouthpiece of the god, and so to be taken seriously. By the way, above the door of the Delphic oracle was inscribed the saying, noti se auton, which in Greek, and it means know thyself. So we hear that sometimes. Sometimes that quote's attributed to Socrates. He probably did say that, but it didn't originate with him. It's actually kind of common phrase, piece of wisdom. Anyway, so Chaerephon says to Socrates, well, I asked the oracle whether or not there was anybody wiser than my friend Socrates. And Socrates says, you fool, why would you ask that question? Socrates said, if there's one thing that I know, it's that I'm not wise. And then Chaerephon says, well, do you want to know what the oracle said? And Socrates says, no, you don't have to tell me. I know I'm not wise. So of course the oracle said, no, your friend Socrates is not the wisest, right? Of course there are people wiser than your friend Socrates. And Chaerephon says, no, that's not what the oracle said. The oracle said, no, there is no one wiser than your friend Socrates. Now this was puzzling to Socrates because he thought that he didn't have any wisdom. He didn't know about the nature of what it means to be a human being, justice, freedom, truth, goodness, and beauty. He knew that he didn't know those things. And yet, this oracle had said that there was no one wiser than Socrates. So he took this as sort of like a divine command to go and seek wisdom. His plan was to go and find someone wiser than himself, which he didn't think would be that hard, and then take that person, bring him to him or her to the oracle, and say, look, I found someone who's wiser than me. What's the solution to the riddle? You told my friend Chaerephon there's no one wiser than me. So what's going on? His first plan was to go and ask questions of the politicians. If there's anyone who has to have wisdom, it's got to be someone who's a politician. Someone who takes on himself the role of governing people has got to understand the nature of government, the nature of what it means to be a human being, justice, freedom, and truth and goodness. They've got to understand that if they're going to govern people well. Now, Athens was a democracy, right? Laws were voted on, but there were people who had to participate in the administration of the government, enforcing laws, writing up laws, presenting them to the people. This was done by the politicians. So Socrates goes and he asks them, he says, what is justice? What is the purpose of government? And in these conversations, what he finds out is that the politicians really don't know what they're talking about. They have the semblance of wisdom, they have the appearance of wisdom, but they don't actually have wisdom. The problem is, though, they think they have wisdom. Socrates knows he's not wise. He knows he doesn't know these things. And also, the problem is that in this process, he's embarrassing these really important, powerful people. These aren't like private meetings. He's out in the marketplace having conversations with people. So he interviews the politicians and realizes they're not wise. So then he goes to the artists, right? The poets and the playwrights and the musicians and the sculptors, the beautiful sculptures, right? The Greek vases that they made. And he thinks, well, maybe they have some wisdom because there's so much meaning and wisdom that comes through in the art that probably maybe they know what they're talking about, truth and goodness and beauty and the nature of the human person, etc. Maybe they know these things. And the same thing, they thought they had wisdom. These artists thought that they were wise. But when he really questioned them about the deep meaning of things, they were just as lost as the politicians. But they thought they were wise, but they really weren't. Socrates wasn't wise, but he knew that he wasn't wise. And then same thing with the craftsmen. He thought maybe the people who work with their hands, who are, the stonemasons, these types of people, carpenters, maybe they have some wisdom. And it turned out they didn't either. The conclusion that Socrates came to was this, that there was nobody wiser than him, but only because he recognized that he was not wise. When it came to, again, truth, goodness, beauty, justice, freedom, the nature of the human person, the nature of government, they were all kind of at the same level. They didn't know. None of them had true wisdom about these things, true insight into the essence and the nature of things. But they all thought they were wise. The thing that set Socrates just a little bit above was the fact that he knew he was not wise. His piece of wisdom was his recognition of his own foolishness. So Peter Kraft, the philosophy professor, sums it up this way. There are two kinds of people in the world: the fools who think that they are wise, and the wise who know that they are fools. Again, the problem was he'd embarrassed all these really powerful people. And there were two groups of people that started kind of following Socrates. Some of them really wanted to be his disciples. They wanted to follow his path and his pursuit of wisdom. Plato was one of those, who then, wrote down the Apology and the Republic and all these other Socratic dialogues. But another group of people were the unruly youths, darn teenagers, right? And they saw Socrates is questioning these people, and he's embarrassing them. And they said, hey, that looks like fun. They're not actually trying to pursue wisdom, but they're going to imitate Socrates so they can embarrass people as well, just for fun, to make them look bad. And so Socrates is eventually brought to court. These powerful people, they don't like him. He's embarrassed them. And these unruly youths are starting to cause problems as well and embarrass people further. So they bring Socrates to court on the charges of corrupting the youth and either atheism or teaching gods other than the gods of the state. And that his defense is the Apology. And there have been a few works throughout history that have inspired people to philosophy. St. Augustine says that he read a work by Cicero that kind of woke him up and inspired him to become a philosopher. That work by Cicero has been lost to history. There was another one by Aristotle, but the Republic is the one, not the Republic, the Apology is the one that we still have. Unfortunately, Socrates was condemned to death. And you can read about that dialogue in the Phaedo, also by Plato. But I invite you to start with the Apology. It's a great work. It's his own defense speech where he tells this story. And that's how philosophy got started. Plato was his student, Aristotle was Plato's student, and philosophy was born.